Welcome to Chapter 4, Part 3 of A Realm Retold. We are very close to the end of A Realm Reborn. Only a few plot threads remain. This final part should close most of those threads. We start off this part by helping the Ishgards with a little problem they have. We return to Minfilia and are told to discuss with Lucia. She was sent by Sir Imeric. The matter pertains to Midgardsormr. It appears that he may stir once more. Their astrologians believe that Midgardsormr has begun to move. The dragon star in the sky hasn't shone this brightly in years. However, with Midgardsormr's roar, the star has returned to said brightness. It doesn't seem like anything out of the ordinary has happened to us. No roar was heard from the keeper of the lake. The roar is a figure of speech. The dragonkin have a way to communicate with each other that humans are unable to hear or understand. This roar was definitely sent out by him, and the dragons will rally behind him to attack Ishgard. We do not know if the astrologians are correct, but the only way to know is to examine the keeper of the lake directly. We accept this task and make our way over there as fast as we can. We fight our way to the top of the keeper of the lake. A powerful voice can be heard. It appears to be Midgardsormr. Who dares trespass on my land and awake me from my slumber? Even though the mighty dragon did not appear to change form, he is definitely awake. He begins to channel Aether, and it summons an etheric version of him, and it attacks us. After his defeat, he speaks to us of Hydaelyn's blessing. Midgardsormr tells us that he did in fact call for his people to attack Ishgard. The sons will answer for the father's misdeeds. The dragons do not forget. They do not forgive. Midgardsormr notices that we are not just gifted by Hydaelyn, but in fact chosen. He won't harm us as he obeys Hydaelyn. However, he begins to conjure Aether and shoots it right through our chest, taking us into our vision world. The 6 crystals we previously gathered are glowing brightly around us. Then suddenly, each one begins to swirl in a black Aether, and they lose their color, turning grey and lifeless. Then the magic circle below us disappears. We awake from that vision. What did Midgardsormr do to us? He tells us that he removed us of Hydaelyn's blessing. We no longer have her protection. For a third time he begins to channel Aether. Could it be another attack to finish us off? But instead, a little dragon emerges from it. He tells us that he is bound to us. He wants us to fight and struggle, reach for what we are unable to reach for. The dragon's song has heralded a beginning and an end. Whether or not Midgardsormr is a friend or a foe is unsure, but it seems that we will now have a companion following our every move. We return to the Rising Stones and tell them about the conversation we had with Midgardsormr. We must tell Sir Imeric of a dragon attack that will befall Ishgard, but we cannot tell them that we conversed with a dragon however. Minfilia asks us if we aren't telling them anything. We tell her that Midgardsormr stripped us of our blessing. She is worried, but calms down, stating that this information will be kept between us as we don't want to worry the others. Just as Minfilia leaves, Midgardsormr appears to us to ask us if we are a pawn or a master of our own fate. What have we done with our own 2 hands? And then he disappears. We run into Lucia, who remarks about our feats. It confirms that Midgardsormr did in fact roar, and that a Dravanian attack is imminent. Ishgard are used to dragon attacks, and they will be ready to fend them off. We regroup the Scions to discuss the creation of etheric weapons. They reiterate the reason as to why Ascians are immortal. We know that the white auracite is able to trap the Ascian soul within them for only a short amount of time. But how would you smite the Ascian soul? You need a blade of pure Aether. We cannot use the white auracite to make the blades, as the Aether doesn't stay within them for long. So we must look at Aether crystals again. But how many Aether crystals would one need? It might even be impossible to bring that amount of crystals. Moenbreda has a solution to this. The land itself. There are corrupted crystals everywhere since the calamity, and this is going to be our main way of gathering Aether. In fact, Moenbreda has a way to tap into this Aether from over a mom away. She has created an etheric siphon to test her theory, but she needs an isolated corrupted crystal before she can test the ones in Mordona. Alfinawad interrupts the meeting, stating that some crystals can be found in northern Fanaland, but asks for our aid in return. There has been reported movements within Castrum Meridianum. We agree to help the Crystal Braves fend off the Garlean threat. We deal with the Garlean threat with the help of Moenbreda, Papalamo, Thancred, and the rest of the Crystal Braves. Moenbreda can be seen setting up the siphon near a corrupted crystal. It begins to siphon the aether and the crystal glows ever so slightly. She promises to find a way to forge the blade. We sense the fact that we are being watched. It seems the Ashian known as Nabriales has been watching us. Moenbreda goes in for an attack, but is stopped by just one of Nabriales' fingers and sent flying. He notices that we have lost our gift of Hydaelyn. He no longer deems us a threat. A seal has been broken and he will claim the staff. Moenbreda realizes that the staff he was talking about was Tuspimati, Louis Soir's staff. Minfilia must be in trouble, so we rush to the Rising Stones. Upon arriving, we see Nabriales confronting Minfilia, who is holding Tuspimati in her hands. He calls us the Warrior of Light, but then takes it back as we no longer have her blessing. Nabriales is only now able to enter this domain, as our blessing was taken away by Midgardsormr. We realize that it was him who destroyed the Isle of Val, and he will take Tuspimati and cause a rejoining. Moenbreda tries to protect Minfilia, but is sent flying back by Nabriales as he uses dark aether to pierce her waist. What does he want with Tuspimati? Isn't it just an old relic? He calls us idiots for having the key this entire time, but not knowing it was the key. In fact, it is a staff that allows you to control a huge amount of aether. It's what allowed Louis Soir to summon primal incarnations of the 12 during the destruction of our realms. Minfilia, now knowing how important Tuspimati is, she will not let Nabriales take it. So she is yet again turned into a damsel in distress and is captured by the Ashian. A dark rift remains in the room, and Moenbreda tells us to follow him in before the rift closes. Upon entering the rift, we enter a dark, twisted world. The floor appears to be made of purple aetherite crystals. We can see Minfilia hanging in the sky. Nabriales challenges us. His strength rivals La Habrea, but this time we lack the blessing of light to beat him. Somehow we manage to defeat him. Before he is killed, he flees, which releases Minfilia from her restraints. We awaken to see us all back in the room. Tuspimati is on the floor, along with Nabriales. Nabriales gets cocky. We may have won today, but what about the rest of the days? The Ashians are immortal. The blessing of light is gone. He can return whenever he feels like it, so eventually we will succumb to him and the staff will be his. Moenbreda calls out to Minfilia and tosses the white aura sight towards her. Minfilia holds it up and begins to absorb the Ashian inside of it. Nabriales is confused. He does not know what we are about to do to him, but we do not have a plan to create etheric weapons. We barely tested that theory moments ago. But Tuspimati lies before us. But of course, this staff allows us to gather large amounts of aether. We channel a beam of aether towards the white aura sight. The lack of the blessing means that the Ashian is able to fend off our beam. The beam's power is waning. Minfilia begins to pray to Hydaelyn, but she does not respond. What do? We cannot hold any longer. It looks grim. Moenbreda laments that we need more aether. She then decides that Student shall follow in the master's footsteps. She says her final goodbyes to her childhood friend Urianja. Slowly, she limps towards the beam. Allowing her body to dissipate into aether, strengthening the beam twofold. This aether is enough to harm Nabriales in the white aura sight. He begins to beg for his life. For once, the immortal being fears death. We then shatter the white aura sight. The Ashian is dead. We did it. We slew an immortal being. But at what cost? Our dear friend Moenbryda is no more. The rest of the Scions rushed to our aid. They all tried to make it here as fast as they could, but ended up being late. They are happy to see the Ascian is dead. Y'shtola asks, "Where is Moenbryda?" We have to deliver the bad news. That she died to defeat Nabriales. The Scions are distressed upon hearing the news. Urianger arrives last. Urianger is Moenbryda's childhood friend. He may hide behind his words, but we can tell how he must feel inside. He begins to tell us of their bond. They both worked under Louis Soir. He told them that knowledge learned existed to help Eorzea, even though that went against Sharlayan beliefs. Even so, he made the Circle of Knowing and left Sharlayan to help Eorzea. The man should be revered for what he did, but in Sharlayan he was hated. A man who forsook his duty. When Louis Soir left, he did not bring Moenbryda along with him. It left her upset. Was she not good enough for him? Louis Soir left her behind so that she could find her own path without living in his shadow. Urianger laments that he couldn't help ease that doubt by telling her Louis Soir's intentions. She died, not being able to clear that doubt in her heart. We tell Urianger that in her final moments, she understood what Louis Soir set out for her. In the end, she did not die with any regrets. We shall not let her sacrifice be in vain. We now have the methods and means to slay Ascians. We shall mourn her and put her to rest. Urianger requests that he be able to mourn her in his own personal way, and leaves to the waking sands. We have a memorial service for Moenbryda atop Mordona. There lies a set of sacred stones which are dedicated to the guardian deity of Sharlayan, Thaliak. We say our prayers, and Thancred places a flower. Minfilia blames herself for her death, but it is not one person's fault. We must fight on, for a brighter tomorrow. Midgardsormr appears to us, saying, "Life for death, a fair exchange. Other bargains will be struck." Then he disappears. It seems Ul'dah has been hit pretty hard by Moenbryda's death. Minfilia asks us to check up on her and try comfort her. She places a rare flower, known as a moon daisy, at the stone. Midgardsormr states that the song riseth to a chorus. Then suddenly, dragons can be seen flying above us, straight for Ishgard. We are contacted by Ul'dah, who tells us to return to the rising stones. Lady Iceheart and her band of heretics are attacking the guards at the gate of Ishgard. She repeats the words of Midgardsormr and begins channeling Aether. She destroys the barrier which protected Ishgard from the Dravanians. Then she hearkens the dragons forward to destroy Ishgard. We return to Camp Dragonhead to talk to Sir Imeric. He introduces us to a friend of his known as Estinian, a dragoon. He is Ishgard's Azure Dragoon, a master of the lance without equal. The reason Lady Iceheart and the dragons attack Ishgard is to retrieve Nidhogg's eye. It is a treasured relic of Ishgard and was plucked from the dragon's corpse. If Nidhogg were to retrieve this eye, then he would be returned to his former power and eradicate Ishgard. Midgardsormr cuts in and tells us that the song has waged war for thousands of years. No single mortal could comprehend it. Ishgard believes that Lady Iceheart is in cahoots with Nidhogg, or that they want the eye for their own reason. Imeric asks for our aid in the upcoming battle. Ul'dah states that why should we? Ishgard has ignored our calls for aid during Operation Archon. Imeric asks him, what would they do if Ishgard fell? If Ishgard were raised by dragons, they wouldn't sit idly. There is a chance that they may attack the other nations. Even if they didn't, the Guardians could take Coerthas without even drawing their sword. Ul'dah is convinced. Even though Ishgard abandoned us, we shall not abandon them. Estinian tells us that he is the incarnation of Nidhogg. He carries the power of Nidhogg with him always. It allows him to hear Nidhogg at all times. It was in fact Nidhogg who called for this attack. Alfinawad wants us to return back to the Rising Stones. He asks Minfilia to summon the other Scions, along with the Crystal Braves. Alfinawad reports that the dragons are attacking Ishgard and they want our aid. We must help them. If Ishgard falls, then Eorzea shall feel the consequences. If we do this, we will in fact be intervening in their war, specifically choosing the side of the Ishgardians over the Dravanians. But as long as we believe what we are doing is right, we shouldn't be afraid. The Crystal Braves, backed by the Scions, will assist Ishgard in its defense against the dragons. Everyone begins to take their leave, but just before leaving, Ilberd and Yu Haze have a private conversation between each other before leaving. Riol is visually concerned about this. It seems that he may not trust them. Alfinawad believes that it is a good idea to try and convince the three Grand Companies that it is okay for the Crystal Braves to intervene in Ishgard's battle and potentially receive aid from them. The Grand Companies will support the battle with a few soldiers, but that is all they can spare. They tell us to turn to the Free Companies if they want aid. Alfinawad is angry that the Grand Companies won't aid Ishgard. The fact that they want us to use the Free Companies instead is an insult. It is for this exact reason the Eorzea Alliance was formed. How can Eorzea become an alliance if they won't go out of their way to defend Eorzea? But the nations must look after themselves first, then the alliance, and then Ishgard. Ishgard is too far down on the table to provide such aid to them. They tell us to assemble a party of elite adventurers to assist in this battle of Ishgard. Reborn offers a proposition. If they allow Ul'dah to be defended by the brass blades, then he may be able to send more immortal flames to aid Ishgard. Reborn asks Nanamo for permission to do so. Nanamo seems lost in thought. She abruptly snaps back into the conversation and allows him to do it. Something is clearly troubling the Sultana. Reborn is worried about Nanamo, but her retainer says that she is in perfect health. We arrive on the Steps of Faith. What Lady Iceheart did is she destroyed the arcane barrier that stopped the dragons from flying into Ishgard. This allows them to fly directly onto the bridge leading to Ishgard. Out of nowhere, a gigantic dragon, followed by a Dravanian horde, begins attacking the bridge. Us and our elite group of adventurers defeat this dragon. With the main dragon defeated, the lesser Dravanians withdraw. Ishgard lives to stand another day. Apparently the dragon we slew was one of Nidhogg's champions. Estinian ponders as to why Nidhogg doesn't fight this battle himself. Estinian yearns to spill the blood of a great Wyram. We return back to the Rising Stones. We are at a memorable moment in Eorzea history. The first time in 15 years did we stand side by side with Ishgard. The Eorzea Alliance is finally becoming a thing. We have every reason to celebrate, but we cannot find the appetite to. Every time we are victorious, we always have casualties. Sometimes it is in our own home, like Moen Breeder, or it is the adventurers who were crushed by the dragons on the bridge. But we will try to celebrate as we were invited to a royal banquet by the Sultana. We arrive in Ul'dah, but are asked to return to Momodi. Momodi told us that Elaine wants to have a private meeting with us so she can show us something of importance. We wait in the requested spot, but she is a no-show. Eventually we leave, but find a vial at our feet. It doesn't seem that important, but we take it to Momodi. It is just a normal vial used by alchemists. Why was it here? Is it even of any importance? We decide to keep it anyway. We cut to Nanamo, saying a prayer in her room. She is lost and confused. She doesn't know another way to get out of her predicament without disbanding the Syndicate and the Monarchy, but she seems resolved to do so. With everything covered, we have now finally arrived at the finale to our Realm Reborn. This is going to be lengthy, so just as the tooltip says, several cutscenes will play in sequence. It is recommended that you set aside sufficient time to view these scenes in their entirety. We see Nanamo speaking to her lady-in-waiting. She pours her a drink and rushes out to call the warrior light into her bedchambers. We see the rest of the Scions have arrived to the banquet, It is full of life and the people look happy. Morale is at an all-time high. Sir Imeric is conversing with the 3 Grand Company leaders. Everything seems to be going smoothly. Eorzea is one step closer to becoming a united front. We are on the cusp of a new era of prosperity. The Grand Companies talk to Imeric. They try to convince Imeric of a united Eorzea. Alfinawad remarks that they only say those words after the fact. Imeric states that with this forged alliance, he will try to convince the Archbishop to allow Ishgard to rejoin their sister nations. Alfinawad is called away by a crystal brave. It seems like Ul'dah wanted a word with him. We arrive in the Sultana's bedchambers. She sends her lady-in-waiting away, so we can talk in private. She tells us of her plan, of how she will abolish the monarchy. She blames the people suffering on herself, and believes that the victory feast would be the best place to speak of Ul'dah's future. Then she asks us to stay by Reborn's side, the one true hero that she can trust. We obviously accept her request and she is grateful. Nanamo reaches for her goblet. She swirls the wine around, smells the fragrant scent coming from the goblet, and takes a sip. Suddenly, her eyes widen. The goblet falls from her hand and collides with the ground. Reborn notices something might be up. Nanamo is struggling to breathe. She grasps at her throat, tears streaming down her face. She reaches towards us, her ever stalwart hero, before falling to the ground, limp. We do not even have the time to react to what just happened, when suddenly Teleji Adeleji rushes in, stating that her wine was poisoned. Who could have done this? He immediately inflicts the blame onto us. This is clearly a setup. How did he arrive just as the Sultana died? It seems fishy, but we do not resist and allow the brass blades to arrest us. We cut to Alfinawad meeting with Ul'dah. A sword was pulled against his neck by his fellow Crystal Braves. The Crystal Braves have betrayed Alfinawad and have taken control of the Rising Stones. They may be working with Teleji Adeleji. We cut back to the banquet. Teleji comes in with the brass blades and Ishgard Knights? He sends Sir Imeric home as the Dravanians have returned to attack. Lucia believes it is a method to move them away from the city. He decides to take the bait and leaves the banquet. Thancred is spotted on a balcony and is surrounded by brass blades. They accuse him of espionage in the service of the Garlean Empire. They draw their weapons on him. Thancred begins to realize what is going on and draws his weapons too. Back at the banquet, the people are worried. What is Teleji doing with the brass blades? The mood is quickly souring. Reborn confronts Teleji to ask him what he is doing here and tells him to leave. Teleji tells him that the Sultana was assassinated. He berates them, telling them, "Is this how they defend the city? The immortal flames are not to be trusted." Reborn does not understand the words he hears. Teleji blames us for the assassination. The Scions realize what he is trying to do. He is pinning this entire thing on the Scions. They bring us into the banquet. Our arms are covered in chains. Ilberd throws us to the ground. It seems even Ilberd was in on this, after everything we've been through. Apparently, there was a vial on our person that contained poison that was used to kill Nanamo. How very convenient. Teleji calls Minfilia a witch with the ability to control the minds of the Grand Companies. Even Ishgard has fallen under control. He is clearly speaking lies, but the people grow more and more concerned. Reborn wants to see the Sultana. Ilberd stands in his way. Reborn starts to break down mentally. He falls on his knees and begins to weep. Teleji then announces that he will disband the Royalists. The Monetarists should govern Ul'dah. He then insults the Sultana. Reborn's sadness turns into rage. He accuses Teleji of killing the Sultana. Teleji keeps insulting Nanamo even after her death, stating that he is glad someone finally cut the strings on that damned puppet. Reborn has had enough and he explodes. He grasps both of his blades, yelling, "You'd mock her, then you'd mock her from your grave." He delivers a swift slice to Teleji's waist. killing him instantaneously. The public panic and begin to flee. Lolorito tells Reborn that it is forbidden to draw steel in the raw chambers. He rushes towards Lolorito, stating that he is working with Teleji. Just before he can reach him, Ilberd cuts Reborn's arm clean off. The other leaders, Kane Senna and Merlweb, are forced to flee Ul'dah, even though they want to help. Lolorito wants to arrest the Scions along with Reborn. We are surrounded by the Brass Blades and the Crystal Braves. Reborn remarks that he hopes Ilberd chokes on their coin. Ilberd states that Reborn was tamed by Nanamo. She took the raging bull and cut off its balls. A bull without its balls is only good for slaughter. Ilberd then kneels down in front of him. He asks him, does he really want to know who killed Nanamo? Then he reveals that it was him, that he killed her, wearing such a devilish grin. Reborn is again stricken with rage. He begins to fight Ilberd for revenge. Reborn is sent flying by Ilberd. But he lands right next to us and cuts our restraints. He never doubted the Scions. Before sending us on our way, he tells us to clear our names and reveal who is really behind this plot. We retreat from Ul'dah as he and Ilberd continue their battle. We collide with Thancred. It seems he is also being chased by the Brass Blades and the Crystal Braves. We discuss our findings. We do not have a place to seek refuge to. We are not safe in Ul'dah, nor in the Rising Stones. Thancred knows of a way out, through a secret passageways that Papashan has shown him. We begin to be surrounded by Brass Blades and Crystal Braves. Yida is prepared to stay behind and hold them off. Papalamo decides to join her. Before we can react to their decision, Papalamo fires off a spell to close the gate. They will buy us the precious time we so very desperately need. Minfilia is reluctant to leave them, but we must move, otherwise their sacrifice won't be worth it. We cut to Lord Lolorito, walking through the darkened halls of Ul'dah. Nanamo's lady-in-waiting appears behind him. It seems that even she had a part to play in this plan. Papalamo and Yida are still holding them off for as long as they can, but they are beginning to tire. There doesn't seem to be any end in sight. Papalamo begins channeling a large amount of aether and bestows it to Yida. Yida begins charging an attack, which wipes out all of the assailants nearby. They both smile as the light consumes their everything. Further in, we have found ourselves in Ul'dah's waterways. Even though we use secret tunnels, they are still pursuing us. Y'shtola states that she and Thancred will stay behind to fend them off. She will stay behind for the dawn of a new tomorrow, and tells us to go. We rush off into the darkness with Minfilia. They prepare to fight the incoming Brass Blades and Crystal Blades, showing off their true prowess in their arts. An arrow lands right into Thancred's leg. He takes out their light source, and Y'shtola channels a spell towards the ceiling. They say their final goodbyes, and the light consumes them both. As we race off ahead, we hear the explosion of their attack. Hydaelyn finally speaks to Minfilia, telling her that she must remain and we should go forward. We must go on. We are the warrior of light. We are the symbol of hope for this world. As long as our flame stays ignited, then hope will ever stay. We must go forward and save Eorzea. Just like that, Minfilia races towards the darkness, leaving us all alone. We arrive outside the waterway, the only one who has made it out of this plot. We do not know where we are going, but we just keep running. Eventually we collide with Alfinawad, who is followed by a Lalafell. We tell him what happened to the others. He laments his foolishness. The man who took us at the beginning of our journey arrives on a chocobo caravan. He will give us a ride to get away from Ul'dah as fast as possible. We must hide our appearance, lest people know who we are. It seems that Brent ended up finding us thanks to Alisaie. Alfinawad clearly blames himself for this whole situation. He did create the Braves, it's just that he didn't know that they were someone else's. The Lalafell reveals himself to be Pippin. He had been in Alamigo and only recently returned. He is also the adopted son of Reborn, and pledges to free his father from his imprisonment. Brent drops us off, and no later than that are we picked up by Cid. Cid flies us away in the Enterprise towards Coerthas, where we have allies, specifically Camp Dragonhead, to meet with Lord Horchefont. Maybe he will know what to do. He tells us that the dragons did in fact attack again. They broke through more gates. They will not be able to discuss our asylum within those walls until the dragon threat is dealt with. Lord Horchefont tells us that we can reside here. Maybe this place can be called the Falling Snow. He will hide us here as long as he has to, and is glad that it gives him a good opportunity to repay the debt he has to us. He tells us to rejoin our allies who came here seeking refuge too. I wonder who he is talking about. It seems that he meant Tataru. She has been here with Yugiri this entire time. Yugiri has lost a mask to reveal a woman with dragon-like horns protruding from her head. Tataru remarks how she thinks she looks pretty. Yugiri assures us that even though these are pressing times, the Domans are still our allies. Alfinawad still blames himself. His spirits are shot. He is in extreme agony. He believed he used the Scions and the Crystal Braves as pawns to achieve what he wanted. He wanted the salvation of Eorzea, but how was he going to do that? Defeat every Primal, defeat every Ascian, destroy the Garlean Empire? No. He wanted to become the guardian of Eorzea to feed his vanity. It is only after he loses everything does he now see the truth to his ignorance. Lord Horchefont comes in to console him, asking him, is there no way to reforge him? He begins to encourage him. He has such stark companions at his side that he could almost do anything. Tataru builds up the courage to say her piece. She says that we should ask for asylum in Ishgard. Minfilia told her that as long as there is hope, we will never lose sight. Wherever the Scions are, they will make sure that the dawn's light will shine again. Tears begin to fill her eyes. The darkness lifts ever so slightly from his eyes, remarking that the Scions did so much good for the world, it would all be for naught if we were to just discard it all at once. We should continue this journey, one step at a time. The credits begin to roll. After the credits, a scene can be seen that the lady in waiting was actually working for Lord Lolorito, and that some preparations have been made. We cut to Reborn sitting in prison. His flame of vengeance does still burn. We then cut to the Ascians in the void. Elidibus and La Habrea discuss of Nabriales' demise. They worry that they were able to kill that which was meant to be immortal, and decide to speed up the plan. If they get more efficient at killing Ascians, it could spell doom for their whole cause. Behind Elidibus is a man who looks very familiar. It is our friend Urianger. What is he doing here, and why is he conversing with Elidibus? Did he betray us? We are given so many questions, but the answers will come with time. Finally, we cut to Ishgard, the lonely city, sitting atop a mountain. We are standing at the gates, preparing to enter. Midgardsormr mocks us for thinking that sanctuary lies within. It is in fact delusion, despair, and death. But we do not have a choice. We are without a home, without many of our friends and comrades. We must start anew within Ishgard. To preserve the dawn's light, the heroes journeyed north, their hearts filled with hope and eyes fixed heavensward. And there you have it. It has taken quite some time, but we have concluded the A Realm Reborn story. Our journey has had many highs and lows throughout, but we haven't had a low quite like this before. Most of the Scions are presumed dead. Only a few of us remain. We are not alone, however. We still have allies, like House Fortemps and the Domans. We seek asylum within Ishgard, so we may restart anew. Who knows what the future has in store for us? This has been a really fun project. I have enjoyed watching my growth from when I started this project till now. I feel like I've grown a bit more confident in recording my voice, and have also gotten better at editing these together. Still, there is more to improve, so with time they may get even better. I am still in disbelief that it has been 2 months since I started this project. Time has whizzed right by. Here's to many more months to come. In our next chapter, we will finally be covering the Heavensward main scenario. I thank you for watching. If you made it this far, just know that you are acknowledged and appreciated. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Consider subscribing, as there will be more to come. Check out the links in the description if you want more content outside of YouTube. May you ever walk in the light of the crystal.